Hi there, this is G with All Things Relax Studios. And I'm here today to talk to you about why I think you need to book a session with me, one of the sound check sessions with G. And I'm going to go over three main points that we will cover in the sessions together. So first, let me give you a little bit of background about myself. I am co-founder, Sandy's partner, and of All Things Relax Studios. And I was a tour manager and live sound engineer for over 2 decades and have toured and worked with a lot of many well-known artists and have traveled all over the planet. And today I'm going to talk about three key pieces that we're going to cover in the sessions, the sound check sessions. And also, this is some tips and advice that you can use for your show. So let's begin. So I feel, and Sandy feels this way, but there are three main things that really make the difference between sounding okay and sounding professional, right? So the first of these three things is, well, I'll tell you what the three things are first, right? Okay. One is know your tech. Number two is know your voice. And number three is know your message, right? So the first one, know your tech, is Sandy and I feel this way very strongly. But any time that you are going online, anytime you are on a podcast as a host, as a co-host, or you're on a podcast as a guest, or you're doing a Facebook Live, or you're doing a coaching call where you're talking to your clients, your customers on Zoom, or you're doing a summit, or even if you're creating your product, right, and recording it on Loom, like I am today, it is imperative that we use a microphone and headset. And I'm going to go over that a little bit, cover a little bit of that today, because every time you're sitting in front of your computer, you are broadcasting your message out to your audience, right? And by using a microphone, you're going to get that crystal clear sound. And by using a headset, you're going to hear everything that the microphone is picking up. Plus, you'll hear the other people that, especially on Zoom meetings and things, when they're talking back to you, you'll hear it crystal clear, right? So it's very important to know the tech. And as you can see on Instagram, some of the testimonials with like Jen and Lauren, is the first thing we cover in the session is learning the tech. Now, talking into a microphone and having it sound great is so much more than just plug it in and go. There's settings on each microphone. There's settings on the computer. And there's different characteristics of every environment that you're doing your show, you're doing your broadcast from, right? So something as simple as putting a tablecloth down on your desk can, reduce reflection and make your sound better. So we go over a lot of the technical aspects of setting up your mic, setting up your studio, getting the tech part of it done, right? So now let's keep this short today. Number two is know your voice. Now, every voice is different. Every voice is unique. And if this is brand new for you, you haven't talked into a microphone and heard your your sound in headphones, it can be very new. It can be like riding a bike for the first time, right? But so once you know your tech and you know how the microphone works and the characteristics and all the settings on the mic and the gain structure, input, output, all that, you need to learn what your voice sounds like. The intonation, the pauses, the, embouchure, the crescendo, decrescendo, the dynamics of your voice, how to talk into the microphone, how to get your message out to your people, right? So the best way, in my opinion, and Sandy feels the same way, is repetition. Just like those bands and artists I tour with for over 2 decades, one thing they all had in common is they never went on stage until they rehearsed, until they knew their songs. They knew where they were going to, be on stage, what they were going to say to the crowd. They rehearsed it over and over again so that when they present it in front of the live audience, they know, okay, we've got the tech covered. I can hear myself. It's all good. I know what, my voice sounds like and what it's going to sound like for the crowd. So that goes into, we should just not, we shouldn't just use mics for podcasts or being a guest on a podcast, in my opinion. And Sandy, I'm sure feels, and she does feel the same way. Every time you are online in front of your computer, broadcasting to the world, to your listeners, to your clients, to your customers, you should be using a mic and headset, because not only is your message going to be crystal clear to them, but you're going to learn what your voice sounds like. Every voice has different characteristics. When you're using headphones, you're going to know if you talk back too far from the microphone, what it sounds like. If you get too close to the microphone, what it sounds like. And the best way to learn this is through repetition. Is if you start using mic and headset every time you go online on your computer. On the phone, it's a little different because it's not really set up the same. But anytime you're on your computer, you're doing a Facebook Live, you're doing a coaching call or anything, and you use this setup, the more you use it, the more you're going to know what your voice sounds like. And that leads us to point number 3, and that is know your message. And another thing that all these artists that I worked with have in common is before they did any press interviews, they rehearsed. A lot of times they rehearsed their answers, right? I mean, think about it. If you're a guest on a podcast, right? The chances are the host is going to ask you probably one of 5 or 6 questions that you've heard before. So now is the time that not only do you know the tech and how your microphone works and how your voice sounds, and oh, this sounds great, you need to rehearse or present your message. I mean, let's face it, most of the questions that people are going to ask is, where are you from? Tell us about your business. Tell us about how you got your start. Tell us about what you're doing now or your call to action, the product service you're presenting. What's the best way for people to reach you? And, if you could go back in time 10 years ago and tell yourself 10 years ago, what lessons have you learned now that you would go back then? And these questions pretty much can be in that same range, right? And there might be other ones, but now that you are using your mic and headset and you know what you sound like, right? Taking the time to go through and rehearse those questions over and over again and getting your responses and telling stories. And that's what we cover in the sound check sessions. Is it's no longer like this is the truth. Podcasting is broadcasting, and podcasts are the new business card. It is no longer you go on a show and I don't know, I'm not sure. I mean, it is your brand, right? It's your message, right? So if you go in there, as we say, dialed in the music business, dialed up, that it doesn't need to sound fake. That's the talent here, to take something that you've been asked a million times or maybe a couple times and make it sound like it's original and authentic. But the reality is that you've rehearsed it and you pulled it apart and you put it back together and you're like, okay, this is how I want it to sound. So those are the 3 key points that we feel, will really help you guys out there in your broadcast world. So whether you have a podcast or whether you're doing Facebook Lives or you're doing client meetings on Zoom, these are technology and strategies that we used in the music business for years, for decades. Back in my day, I mean, I'm older, but back in my day, the only way you could broadcast your message was through a radio station studio or a television studio or on a movie set. And now with the technology and everything we have, you can sit in your home office just like this, talk into your microphone, headphones, your camera, on your computer, and broadcast a message all over the world. And that just blows my mind. So Sandy and I are here to help you guys along that journey. That's why we created the Introvert's Guide to Rocking Your Podcast e-course. And that's why I've opened up for a limited time these sound check sessions with G, so that we can talk one-on-one and go through, okay, not only learn how the microphone works, learn how your voice sounds, but also fine tune that message. And the best way to do that is to have a mock interview. And that's part of what we can do in the session as well. And also recording yourself and playing it back and listening to it and hearing the characteristics of your voice. And it's like repetition, right? The more you do it, the better you get at it. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in to this, and I invite you to check out everything that's going on over at allthingsrelaxstudios.com. I invite you to book your session with me, the soundcheck sessions. All the information is on there. Just click on Work with Us. And until next time.